Hey everyone, Tony Vlahos here, Chief Marketing Officer of ExecuNet, and it's my pleasure to be speaking with Simon Sinek today. Hey Simon.
How are you?
Good. Simon, of course, is a world-renowned leadership expert and author of Start With Why. So I read something about you once, and I want to hear it, please, in your own words.
Okay.
A story about your time in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And I remember the article I read as a moment of I'll say, career and happiness, or sort of your realization of what it means to go to work. Please tell me about that.
Sure. So I was doing work with the Air Force Mobility Forces, and the general in charge at the time approached me and said, you know, you've gotten to know us pretty well, but I would really like if you would go and see our men and women perform their duty. Would you be willing to go to Iraq or Afghanistan? So I said yes. So they chose Afghanistan. And the idea was that I would go on various different missions. I had no responsibility. I was just going as an observer. I'd come back and share my observations. I didn't tell my parents I was going because I didn't want them to worry. I told them I was going away with the Air Force. True. I told them I was going to Germany. True. I told them I'd be on lots of planes, so I'd be out of touch for a few days. True. I just didn't tell them I was going on to Afghanistan. So our first mission, we left Dover and we took a big C-5 cargo plane to Ramstein, and we caught another plane, a KC-135, out of Ramstein to Bagram Air Base. I had two military escorts, two officers who went with me. We landed in Bagram, and we were on the ground maybe 10 minutes, and the base came under rocket attack. You could hear the rockets come in, the sirens start blaring. Strangely enough, I was relaxed, probably because they were relaxed. You know, for those who have ever been in a war zone, you have all the feelings you would expect to have, but you don't have them at the right times. We went to our quarters eventually when the all clear was given, and the primary reason for being out there was to go on an airdrop mission. And so the good news was we found an airdrop that was leaving first thing in the morning, because these things aren't regularly scheduled. We found one that was leaving first thing in the morning, and we got up very, very early. I think we got 2.5 or 3 hours of sleep, and we went and got on this airdrop. It was an amazing experience. We flew on a big C-17, about an hour and a half out into the country. The big door in the back opens, and all the cargo flies out the back with parachutes, and we supplied an Army forward operating base. It was pretty incredible. Then we flew back to Bagram, and the goal was to now leave, to go home, right? And again, there's no regularly scheduled thing, so you find a flight, and it's up to the crew to let you on. And so we went to look for a flight, and we found an outbound aeromedical evacuation, which means bringing wounded warriors home. And we asked, can we get on the plane? And they said, we need you to hang out for a while, so we waited and waited and waited and waited. And they finally gave us the all clear, and we were literally sitting on the plane, all buckled in, ready to go, and 5 minutes before we were supposed to leave, the pilot came back to us and said, I need to bump you because I need more room for stretchers. So if there's ever a good reason to get off a plane, that's a good one. No big deal. We went to see if we could find another flight out of there. And that's when we learned that there were no other flights leaving, and there were no other flights leaving for the next 4 days. So we were now stuck in Afghanistan for at least 4 days. It was a Saturday, there were no flights, and there's no till Tuesday, and there's no guarantee that we get on one of them. I had no way of reaching out to my family, and even if I could, what am I going to say? Hey, I'm going to be late. I'm in Afghanistan. I'm at Bagram Air Base, and I remember every fiber of my body just sinking. I remember I just remember it. I remember feeling out of control. I remember I felt paranoia come over me. I started to worry. I started to believe that there'd be another rocket attack, except this one would land on me. And I'm in the purpose business, and so I started sort of Viktor Frankling myself. You can't control the circumstances; you can only control your attitude. And I'm like, change your attitude, and it doesn't work that way. It's like somebody going, it doesn't work. So we went back to our quarters, and I lay down on the bed, and we were exhausted, all of us, and I closed my eyes, but I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing. One of the guys left and said, I'm going to see if I can find another flight. He walked out. And the other guy said, well, I'm going to go to the gym then. And he walked out, and he thought I was sleeping, and he turned the lights off. And I lay there in the dark by myself, my mind racing. I regretted being there. I realized I had no sense of purpose. I tried to invent one, like I'm here to tell their story. It didn't work. And I realized I was basically living the equivalent of an unhappy, unfulfilled life compressed into 24 hours, where, a work life, where we confuse excitement with fulfillment. I had an amazing day, but I didn't want to wake up and do it again. And we confuse the big wins or the money we make with being fulfilled. It's not. It's just exciting. And I didn't want to be there. And there's nothing I could do about it. And I tried doing all of these mind games to get me out of this depression. I mean, that's what it was. And I gave up. I lay there in that bed and I gave up. And I resigned myself to the fact that I was stuck and there's nothing I could do about it. And once I gave up, I decided that I was going to make myself useful. I'd met some amazing people throughout the day, and I decided I was going to volunteer, speak if they wanted me to. I would carry boxes, sweep floors. I didn't care how menial the labor was. I wanted to serve those who were serving others. As soon as I made that decision, this amazing calm came over me. This totally relaxed, totally fine with being there, excited even. It was the most amazing feeling as soon as I'd come to this conclusion. As if it were a movie, the timing was uncanny. I'd come to this conclusion, this calm has come over me. The door flies open, it's Major Throckmorton, and he says, there's a flight that's been redirected, but if we don't catch it now, it's going to leave without us. Like, we have to leave now. We've got to go. Where's Matt? I'm like, he's at the gym. So we run out to the gym, we get him off the treadmill, he runs back, no time for a shower, he puts his uniform back on, we grab our stuff and we run out. We go out to the flight line, and as soon as we get to the flight line, a security cordon comes down and we can't go out. We can see our plane, it's on the tarmac, but we can't get there. And the reason is because somewhere else on base, they're having a fallen soldier ceremony. And out of respect, when there's a fallen soldier ceremony, base operations stop.
Right.
So we sat on the curb and waited, and I told the guys what I went through. And I cried like a baby. And this is one thing most people don't know about the military, which is crying is just fine. Eventually the cordon went up, and we walked out to the plane. Now, what I didn't tell you is the reason this flight was redirected. The reason it was redirected is because we would be carrying home the soldier for whom they just had the ceremony.
My goodness.
We climbed aboard the plane. We were the only 3 passengers, us and the crew. We stood at the back of the plane, and the Army brought the flag-draped casket aboard this big cargo plane. And all of them stood at attention. I put my hand on my heart because I'm a civilian. I kind of felt like an idiot, so I stood at attention with them. So we all stood at attention in line. They laid the casket down in the middle of the cargo bay. The Army did a slow 8-count salute. They turned, they marched off the plane, and we could watch them hugging and crying as they walked out of sight. Our crew got to work and strap the cargo down, the casket down. It was a 9.5-hour overnight flight back to Bagram. And on every other flight we took, we'd talk and we'd joke around, and barely a word was spoken on this flight. On every other flight I was on, I would visit the cockpit and hang out with the crew. I didn't visit the cockpit once. Once we got in the sky, we all pulled out our sleeping bags and staked out a piece of real estate, and I slept, that far from him, 33 years old, wife and 3 kids. And I tell you, it's the greatest honor of my life. Having just gone through this intense experience back on the ground and learned what purpose really means, which is to serve those who serve others, I had this amazing opportunity to bring someone home who knows a lot more about purpose than I ever will.
Absolutely. And
it changed my life. It set me on a very different course. It really focused my work like it had never been focused before, and it was the inspiration for this new book, Leaders Eat Last, because I wanted to understand where trust and cooperation came from. Like, where does that sense of purpose, that willingness come from? So it was, I tell the story when I can, predominantly have to share the feelings that I had, have to share the lessons, I guess, but mostly so that I will remember the feelings. I don't want to ever forget what I went through.
And this made you stronger at work.
Oh yeah. It made my work much more powerful. It made my work much more focused, and it gave me the courage to say no to things I used to say yes to. I would say yes to things where I knew they were only using me to grow their bottom line, irrespective of how it affected the people. And I did it I could rationalize that, I have to get to everybody, and I realized, no, that's not how it works. And we got much better at saying no to things that were bad fits, So yeah, it changed me for the better.